mind each and every day. You deserve love, and you get it.
Coming to you from the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network newsroom, I'm Guy Ticker with The Strange News. Mysterious ultra-low frequency noises detected in Earth's atmosphere, and scientists can't explain them. I'm Guy Ticker. The Strange News is brought to you by Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. Do you have a strange story? Contact us at nightdreamstalkradio.com. If you're not watching us live on YouTube, you're missing a lot. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and become a Night Dreamer. Once again, it's Gary Anderson coming to you live. He is live, right? Okay. Live from the Night Dreams Talk Radio studios, just in time for ET UFO month. And you know what that means.
We're expecting to get some very interesting news about the possibility that relics from extraterrestrial technological civilizations might be near us.
And you know Gary and his pals are going to make sure the hidden gets revealed. That's how this current quest got started.
When a few multi-billionaires came to the porch of my home and gave me a few $1 million, and whatever we find we'll reveal. It will be open data. It will not be secret.
Sure, because you know when Mr. Anderson's involved, nothing stays secret.
It makes no sense to prevent it from being known to all humans, because eventually,
without question, thanks to Gary,
people will learn about it.
So now, get ready to blast off and know the unknown with your host, the one, the only, Gary Anderson.
That is me. I tell you what, I love that intro. I tell you, I really feel important every time we come on the air. And then after the show's over, my wife makes me feel the opposite. Well, JC, how have you been?
Been doing good. Getting ready for a frost tonight, which is always lovely in the late May. How you doing?
Well, you know, right now the studio is 83 degrees inside. It's about 85 outside. And it's going to be warm till Friday. And then Sunday is going to be in the 60s and pouring down rain. Typical. You know what they found on Mars?
Oh, no. What?
My Aunt Bertha. No, what they found on Mars, well, they found underground lakes with water on Mars.
Listen, we've always said at least we thought there's been a lot of water there. I bet there's a lot more things there, too. Hopefully they'll find it and let us know.
Oh, yeah. I got to adjust this one camera here tomorrow before the show. But, you know, again, you know, they've been finding a lot of things on Mars. But do you trust, let's face it, do you trust the Congress, the Senate, the military when it comes to UFOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call it? We've been whitewashed ever since, well, back in the 50s, Roswell mainly with that crash. But, you know, a lot of people, ufologists think, oh, we're going to be told the truth by the Congress. They're going to just give us all this information, right? And they never do it. So, you know, what could be on Mars? Could we have little green men walking around on Mars? Could there be cities on Mars that we don't know about?
And if there is, will they come, like you said, will they let us know, which I doubt.
No, they're not going to let us know. If they sat there and said that all these UAPs, they're man-made, basically, that there's no proof that they're coming from off-world, you're going to think they're going to come and say, hey, JC, guess what? There is, well, ETs living on the backside of the moon and on Mars. They wouldn't tell us.
No. You kidding me? Somebody would be liable for trillions of dollars over the years. Alligator for that.
And that's what I say to that, a little bit of Hanukkah music. But anyway, if you think about this, I mean, we've been lied to constantly. It's not stopped. You know, I get these emails on a regular basis from, well, you know, Steve Bassett. And, oh, again, guess what? In the next 3 weeks, disclosure is going to happen.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you mentioned. I seen an old documentary of Stanton Friedman. I think it was from 1968 or 69. Was talking the same thing about disclosure coming soon, and here we are, 50-some years later.
Well, the best disclosure you're going to find, go to the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah. Well, right. And then you mentioned they lied to us. They've been lying to us since 47.
Oh, yeah. There's been a lot of crashes. One in my state near Westport, Washington, back in the, I think, 60s, which, law enforcement saw it crashed. A lot of witnesses. There's been one Lake Michigan back, 20-some years ago again, or 29 years ago, that there was over 300 witnesses saw a craft. I mean, come on. I mean, are we that naive? But again, let's look at this. Well, look at what's going on between the Congress and the White House right now, right? They just play games. So do we really need to know? That's what they figure. It's good for the American public. They don't need to know.
Well, yeah, of course. Matter of fact, we've got a guest coming on next week's going to be talking about another crash pre-Roswell.
Yeah, that's scary, isn't it?
That is scary. And, according to Dr. Greer, there was crashes in the 20s. They've had technology to, free energy for over 100 years.
Oh, yeah. And that's the whole thing. Well, you know what? We're going to start the actual show here. The pre-show is over. So guess what? If you're listening right now on YouTube or wherever, you get to hear the whole thing over again as we go live on the apps and to the radio stations. So, by the way, check out our website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com, and we're going to be right back live, not Memorex.
If you're not watching us live on YouTube, you're missing a lot. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and become a Night Dreamer. The Disclosure 2.0 conference in Washington, D.C. with the National Press Club event is June 10th through June 12th. Dr. Greer will share explosive witness testimony and analysis with a call for the government to open up all files on the UFO issue and get to the bottom of the secrecy. For more information on the Disclosure 2.0 conference, go to this website, www.seriousdisclosure.com. From Paul Wallace, author of the best-selling trilogy Escaping from Eden, The Scars of Eden, and Echoes of Eden, comes The Eden Conspiracy, Ancient Memories of E.T. Contact and the Bible Before God. The Eden Conspiracy explores evidence of ancient E.T. contact in the Bible's deep past, along with forgotten secrets about human progress, political power, emotional intelligence, and human potential. The Eden Conspiracy will take you around the world, from Australia to Brazil, Guatemala, Mexico, Ghana, Kenya, Italy, Scotland, England, Israel, Palestine, and ancient Sumeria. Archaeological sites in the Levant reveal clues of ancient experiences of close encounters. Meet with world-class scholars and senior figures in military intelligence whose privileged information concerns the hidden layers of covert government in the deep past and in the present day. What was the Bible before it became a book about God? What was it our ancestors wanted us to know? Can we recover their wisdom and build a better future? Why was this layer of information translated out of the Bible? Who made the changes? And with what agenda? And what does any of this have to do with ETs? Eric von Daniken, author of Chariots of the Gods, says, quote, Paul Wallace is one of my best colleagues. Paul has a way of speaking that everyone can understand. I have full respect for him. Get your copy of The Eden Conspiracy by Paul Wallace. Available now at Amazon in paperback or on Kindle. And leave a review to join the conversation. The Eden Conspiracy. Once again, coming to you live from the Night Dreams Talk Radio studios, it's Gary Anderson and friends.
And our own astronauts, who were all highly commissioned officers, were not told. And when they got to the moon, not only did they find that there were extraterrestrial activity, but there was also activity from our own planet.
Gary guarantees you get all the inside info, unlike our astronauts.
They were not told and not informed, and all of this is kept under wraps. And that's a good reason why we didn't go back to the moon after Apollo 17. and that is because we did not want more seeing eyes to possibly expose already what had been exposed so much.
Okay, well, here's a man who loves exposure. Gary Anderson.
And here it is, Thursday, the 17th of May already. Wow, the week is just going by fast. I'll tell you that, JC. Think about this. Okay, they found water on Mars, which they said, the only water was on it was maybe a little bit underground or on the caps. But now they're finding, vast bodies of lakes under the ground of Mars. Again, maybe if we're finding that out, why are they telling us now? They had to know about this for a long time.
Oh, I believe so. I believe they know this and a lot of other things. And it kind of makes me think about that face that was spotted in 76 also.
Yeah. Well, you never know. A lot of stuff with NASA, if you go look at their pictures, okay, you go back the next day, it's not there. Because, again, I think what they do is, this should have never been posted. But, they're talking about, again, putting a moon base on. And I think that is a very smart thing to do.
Yeah, well, supposedly, in 2024, 2025, one of those 2 years supposed to be, setting up on the moon again. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, hi, Barb, hi, Kim, and everybody else on chat. I hope you guys are having a great evening. Well, who's our guest tonight?
Well, our guest tonight is Alan Steinfeld. Now, he is the author of Making Contact, Preparing for the New Realities of Extraterrestrial Existence. Now, for over 30 years, Alan has hosted the television series New Realities in New York City.
Well, Alan, I want to welcome you to the show. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
Great. Everything you just talked about, the great preparation for tonight's.
Okay, you're breaking up.
Oh, I am?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Let me just adjust this. Okay, sorry. How's that now? No?
Yeah, there we go. We got it.
Okay.
I got to ask you a question, Alan. How old were you when you got, I'm not going to call them UAPs. I'm too old for that. They're still UFOs, okay? And they're not ETs to me. They're aliens. I don't care what people say. But how old were you when you got interested in this subject?
Well, in 1966, you might remember there was an article in Look magazine about Betty and Barney Hill. And it talked about them being taken by aliens. I was like 10 years old, maybe, or 11. Never really read those like Hollywood magazine. This story fascinated me. And I figured it was a pretty mainstream publication. I thought maybe there's some truth to that. But then, I didn't think that much about it, but I became obsessed with science fiction. Science fiction was my escape from the outer realities. And I just got educated on possibilities of other worlds and other life. And then when I saw my first UFO in 1987, actually had an encounter, that sort of sucked me down the rabbit hole. And
well, Alan, what did you see back in 87? I mean, that was your first UFO. What were you doing? Where were you at? And what did it look like?
It's actually in my book, but I'll tell you the story. I was driving cross country with this girlfriend of mine. We're going from the West Coast to the East Coast along Interstate 80. We pulled off the side of the road somewhere in western Nebraska, heading east, and just really tired. And we were just passed out. We felt like we're in suspended animation. We woke up in the morning. I think I remembered some vague, weird stuff happening. I didn't really put it together. And we just got out of that place because it was a little creepy. And then I found a mark on the back of my knee, a 4-pronged puncture mark. And coincidentally, I was doing a video for a dancer who was choreographing her abductions. I said, "Hey, do you think there's anything to this?" And she goes, "Yep, that's an abduction mark." Immediately, it freaked me out. I said, no. But I flashed back to that event where I felt like we were frozen throughout the night, suspended animation. And then I met people like Bud Hopkins. I'm sure you remember Bud Hopkins, right?
Yes, I sure do.
I got taken into the intruders group. I got exposed to this thing. I got regressed back to that moment. I saw these beings, and I still don't have a clear memory of it, but I saw these beings float us out of the back of my van. And when you're regressed, and I'm sure you've talked to people that experience this, you're not remembering things as if it happened yesterday. You're using a sort of creative imagination. It's like past life regression. So what comes to you is it's coming from an unknown area, because in a sense, the abductee is so traumatized, they don't actually have a conscious memory. So these memories were coming to me, or visions, but I didn't really know where they were coming from. But the pieces of the puzzle started to come together in that regression. I remembered a previous time when I was like 3 years old, where I would see faces at the window. And then, I think it went back to my family lineage, where my mother has a very strange fear of cats. I said, "What is the fear?" She says, "It's their eyes." And so I think they follow families throughout generations, because, there's a whole theory about why they're abducting people, why they're taking the genetics. We can get into that. So it kind of scared me and fascinated me. And anytime anything does that, there's something going on. So that was sort of my introduction. I happened to meet Bud, was a great guy. He took me into that intruder circle, heard a lot of stories, and it just started to trigger vague memories. And I've been to every single conference and, movie that's come out about the subject, all the great teachers and experts in the field. So this book I wrote, Making Contact, is a collection of people I consider experts in the field of UFOs, UAPs.
Well, I was going to say, Alan, something is going on, and there's so many people out there that either are on the fence or off the fence. I get people all the time tell me, "Oh, there's no such thing as life, not off this planet," and they have to be really naive just to think that we are the only living creatures with a brain.
Well, just like the newscast before, if mortars on Mars, they're slowly feeding us this. Maybe they'll find bacteria on Mars or on TRAPPIST-1 that they're looking at with the Webb telescope. They're slowly opening up the fact that we're not alone in the universe. And my philosophy is life is an emergent property of existence. It's everywhere. The research of Gary Nolan says that the DNA is 9 billion years old and the Earth is only 4.5 billion years old. So there's a form of panspermia going on, where I think life is abundant. It's everywhere. And we're going to have to wake up to the fact that we're not the top of the food chain. I think that's what's, the government has billions of dollars of defense budget, and they can't stop these UAPs, UFOs coming from in and out of our atmosphere. So what do we need that defense budget? It's very complicated why the secret's kept in place, but we can break it down.
Well, I remember the time I had a couple of conversations with Ronald Reagan when he was president. And, I was so concerned about the Soviet Union at the time, having a nuclear war, because that's what was in the news all the time and in the papers all the time. And I was talking to him, and I said, Star Wars, is that going to protect us against a nuclear war with Russia? And he said, "Well, it'll protect us against them out there." And then he corrected himself. But a week later, to the United Nations, he had that famous speech.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it was on his mind that, he was briefed that something is out there.
Well, if you know who Linda Moulton Howe is, she has something called the Reagan Papers, where Reagan was briefed by, I think it was Casey at the time, the head of the CIA, about the 5 different races that were visiting the planet back in the 80s, I guess that was. And so it's been a secret. Why are they keeping it secret? Because there's military getting weapons and technology from it. I think a lot of the fossil fuel companies realize these ships are not filling up their gas tank to get here, and they don't want to jeopardize their monopoly. So, and how do you explain something that doesn't make sense in the reality we're living in? That's the big problem.
Well, again, Alan, so many people are in denial about this. But again, here's the thing I want to know. And I think the Congress, the military, they know what's happening. At least certain people in Congress do. And I want to know if it's a threat to me, my family, to you, your family, or are these things give off orbs and are they lovable? People say, oh, to me all the time, oh, well, they advance where they're not a warrior race. How long has humans been walking this earth and we're still warrior race?
Right. I think it's a lot more complex than one race being here. I think there are
multiple
species that are abducting people for our genetics. I think there are friendly beings trying to stop us from blowing ourselves up. There's others that just want our resources. So it's complex. And the government is slowly hinting at the fact that there is something there. This is why in your first part of the show, we went from UFOs to UAPs. UFOs is unidentified flying objects, and now they're calling unexplained aerial or anomalous phenomena. So we basically went from object to phenomena. And why phenomena? Because we realize these things, whatever they are having an effect on our physiology, our neurology, and our psychology. So it's not just objects, it's an interactive event happening.
Well, another shift why they went away from UFOs to UAPs is they want to detune the UFO thing because it has a long history of people being scared. So by using the word UAP, it takes it away from flying saucers, UFOs, to UAPs. So it kind of fits everything.
Right. And more and more people are seeing these objects in the sky. Look at the MUFON reports. There's an increase of sightings worldwide. Something is happening. I think the government's under pressure to start to slowly leak the truth. It's like, finding out about sex when you're young, and it's like, do you want to learn it from the streets, or you want like the official word in sex education? So I don't know if that's a good analogy, but
it's different.
Is saying, okay, we're going to give you the official word. And so they're spinning a narrative, but the real disclosure is coming from experiencers. So that's key. I'm going to be speaking at the biggest conference in the U.S. called Contact in the Desert, June 2nd to June 4th. There's about 4,000 to 5,000 people that show up there because they're looking for answers and they're open enough to listen to experts in the field.
And that is going to be a really awesome event because I plan to be there. And, we got some of the biggest speakers on this subject. It's going to be there. Now, everybody has their own points of view. I mean, let's be honest. I have my own point of view. You have yours. Everybody does. But I know that we're being visited. Do I know if these things are going to be, if we had a nuclear war, are they going to stop the detonation of a nuclear war? I don't think so. It's naive to think, oh, they'll stop it. Why would they stop it?
Well, yeah, we've made a mess of this planet and with each other. I think they will stop the actual disintegration of Earth. I think they stop different comets and maybe solar flares from hitting the Earth in a big way that disrupts civilization. But we have to clean up our own mess, essentially. They're not going to, it's not the cavalry coming to the rescue here. We created from a beautiful planet. It's one of the nicest planets you'll find. It has such a vast diversity of life and environments, but we have to come together as a planetary civilization. I don't mean one world government. I mean recognizing each other's differences and live in harmony. Who wants to be friends with a bunch of apes whose favorite pastime is tribal warfare? I mean, really, that's what's been going on. So they're here, I think, to only protect us in the most extreme cases where we really get out of hand.
I don't want to find that out, though, Alan.
Right.
I mean, I got a bed. I had it raised up high enough. If anything happens, I'm going to crawl underneath the bed because that's about the most security you're going to get.
Well, that's what they used to tell us in, elementary school. Were you around then, Gary?
I'm probably your age. I don't know how old you are. I'm in my 70s. I'm an old fart.
Not at all, but that's okay. But I'm glad you're open to this. The other factor we have to consider is that these beings are not from our reality. What that means is they show up in your bedroom, and they do a lot of times, a lot of people, your reality is shifted. Their frequency of consciousness is so different, it distorts our field of perception. Does that make sense?
It does. And I'm going to jump in here. Michio Kaku was on our show back about a year and a half ago. And he said, that we're so close to cracking the next dimension, or portals and all parallel universes, and all this stuff could be reality. And that's maybe how they come in here, maybe in another dimension through a portal with these craft. I don't know, but I sure would like to know more.
My theory is that they're in the world, but not of the world. So they come in and out of this dimensional space, but their existence is on a whole other vibrational field. It's like in a way looking at ants. Like, you can look at the ant, but they're not. Those ants are not. We're not in their world. Essentially, they're oblivious, and most people are oblivious to these other realities, these other levels of dimensional space, except in dreams. There's a doorway that opens in dreams. Some people say in altered states. I'd rather get there through dreams. And dreams, they do appear in dream states because your mind is lucid enough to disconnect from the programming, the matrix of this reality.
Now, I got to ask you a question, Alan. Sure. When you're dreaming, how do you know that isn't real and what we're doing right now is a dream?
That is the great question by Chung Si, the great Taoist saint or enlightened master. That is the oldest question in the world. Yes, that's what Edgar Allan Poe says. This is a dream we're waking up to. That's the question. Maybe it's all being dreamt up by you, Gary. This is your dream. And when you awake, you'll remember everything. No one knows how to answer that because all we know is our subjective reality. But our subjective reality can be interfaced with other people's reality so we can expand our awareness. That's why we interact with other beings. And essentially, that's why these extraterrestrial or whatever they are starting to interact with us to expand our notion of what reality is.
How long do you think the government can get away with lying to the population? I mean, look at these crash sites. We're talking about Roswell. We're talking about Brazil. We're talking about even in Texas, going back the turn of the century, there was one in Washington. There's supposedly been crashes in Russia. There's been crashes all over the world. South Africa, there was one back in the 80s. I mean, how come this isn't coming out to the mainstream and the news media reporting this stuff?
Well, I think because there's a corporate interest here. When these crash retrievals, they start to modify the technology. They use it for transistors. I think it's an inside job, is my opinion, where corporate and military are maybe in bed together, and they're getting this high technology to advance their own interests, and at the cost of the American people. We have a right to know what's going on and not get into corporate interests. And how long can they keep that secret? Well, they've kept it for 75 years since Roswell, maybe longer. It's not in the interests of military and corporate to tell us the truth. So we have to demand the truth. Yeah, someone like Stephen Bassett is on the front lines.
Yeah, but I got to jump in here, and don't get mad at me, please. No. Steve Bassett's been on our show multiple times through the years. But if you go back on YouTube 13 years ago, he's anxious. Disclosure is going to be 6 months from now, 3 months from now. Major disclosure, the Congress, the president, Trump was going to announce it, but it never happens.
I know he's over anxious. He really is. He's a great guy, and he puts his whole self, and he just wants it to happen. He does shoot himself in the foot sometimes by making these predictions because they keep moving the goalpost. As we get closer, now there were UAP hearings on April 19th. Did you see that one?
I watched the rerun after my show. I sat back. I had my popcorn. I had my soda, which I don't supposed to be drinking. And I was laid back in the easy chair laughing halfway through it. It was better than a B movie from the mid-50s. I'll tell you that.
It was a B movie. And the key point is when Sean Kirkpatrick was asked, could these be extraterrestrials? He says there's no evidence. Well, there's no evidence because they're not looking at it as evidence. If you can't explain how these objects turn at 90-degree angles or levitate or have no propulsion, and you're saying that's not extraterrestrial, you're trying to squeeze it into a box that doesn't exist. Look, we have to demand the truth because these guys are lying to our face. They're lying to Congress. And why are they lying? Because this is a bigger secret than we realize. When this thing comes out, we're going to realize that multiple dimensional realities exist, that human beings are greater than the cultural limitations we've been taught. I mean, I teach a course on remote viewing where we can use our consciousness to project things non-locally, to look at distant objects just through our mind. There's so much more to this. And this is what the UFO UAP question opens up. Who are we as human beings? So making contact is also making contact with yourself, the greater part of ourselves. But we've been dumbed down, hate to say it, by religion, by media, by politics, by education. We've been put in a very small box, and most people just think that's where they live.
Well, going back to when we landed on the moon, the famous astronaut who stepped down, he was the second one off the craft. Mm-hmm. And the first thing out of his mouth is, look at all these craft on the other side of this crater, bigger than anything we have. They're huge. And they kept telling him, go to the medical channel. Don't say anything more. Now, again, isn't that disclosure right there? I mean, let's face it, but guess what? Everybody just kind of blew that off.
But wait, I heard people talk about Buzz Aldrin saying that, but have you actually heard the recordings? I've never actually heard
I have actually heard the recordings. Yes, I have.
Where can I find that? I
can actually look for it. It might take me a couple of days. I'm on a habit of collecting this type of stuff. And because yes, he did say, and they quoted him, please go to the medical channel now.
I want to hear Buzz Aldrin say that. I mean, I'm sure he did, but I've never heard it. I want to hear that. So if you can find that you're absolutely right, Gary. That is disclosure full on out. We're not alone in the universe. We've never been alone. Let's wake up to the fact that life is abundant. What's the big deal? Well, the big deal is corporate interests, and there's a lot more going on. And it's like the church saying to Galileo, you can't say that the earth is not the center of creation. Even though Copernicus came up with it, Galileo sort of proved it by pointing a telescope at the sky. And, Galileo was the first person to do that. It was a spyglass. People would just use a telescope to spy on the enemy in the distance. And when Galileo pointed the telescope at the sky, everyone said, why are you doing that? We know what's out there. And plus, that's God's bedroom. So he was put under house arrest for doing the obvious.
Yeah. Well, hey, JC, you remember when John Lear's been on multiple times? Didn't he even talk? And sure, Alan, who John Lear was, right?
Yeah, I've met him.
Yeah. And he insists that, there are ET bases on the backside of the moon. Am I right, JC?
Yes. As a matter of fact, he went as far to say that there's still some form of humans up there or aliens to this day. But yes, he did say that on the backside, there was still some buildings and activity going on.
Yeah, that's really interesting, too.
He showed me pictures, actually, when I met him. He said, you see those shadows on the backside of the moon. But the bigger evidence, I think, is with the experiencers, the abductees. They're having something real happen to them, and you can't explain that as psychosis because it's a worldwide phenomenon, and the same thing is happening in South America, Africa, Europe, U.S. Something's going on, and we can't ignore those realities anymore.
No, we can't, and that's the whole scary part. Now, Alan, we need to take about a 3-minute break for the stations, and we'll come back. And we'll go any which way you want to go on this subject because, this is something the people really have to realize. We're being lied to, and we need to get this information out. We are being visited. And I don't know what they're doing. Like Whitley, claims that he's been implanted. Timothy Collin, who's been on our show, who claims he was implanted and had his implant removed. Something is going on. We'll be back with Alan right after this. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio.
Captain Paul Watson was a co-founder of the Greenpeace Foundation in 1972 and the founder of Sea Shepherd in 1977. In 2022, he was forced out of Sea Shepherd in a hostile takeover. So, he established the Captain Paul Watson Foundation to carry on the work they've been doing for half a century with the specific strategy of aggressive nonviolence, which means aggressive intervention without killing or injuring anyone. They took the name he created and the logos he designed, but they couldn't take away his life's mission. The foundation will carry on. This summer, with their new ship, the John Paul DeJoria, they intend to intervene against the Icelandic slaughter of endangered fin whales. And in 2024, they plan to be in the Southern Ocean Whale Sanctuary to stop the return of Japanese whalers who will be defying the International Court of Justice. They have one ship, but they need 2 more. Please visit paulwatsonfoundation.org to become a monthly donor. By becoming a monthly donor, you can help grow their Navy and help save our oceans. We don't survive on this planet with dead oceans. If the oceans die, we die. Please visit now www.paulwatsonfoundation.org. Coming to you live from the Night Dreams Talk Radio studios. Buckle up, Buttercup. It's gonna get bumpy.
Well, I have a source high up in SETI that confirms to me that they, in fact, have received interplanetary signals.
It's Gary Anderson, the one and only inside info impresario.
Not normal array. It was kind of a pulsed array, and that it was kept secret and covered up. The SETI people are furious.
And now, get ready to blast off.
The guy who told me that was the founder of the SETI project. A man who had been one of Carl Sagan's best friends, the best man at his wedding.
Of course, because with Gary, there are billions and billions of possibilities. And now, here he is, the one, the only Gary Anderson.
That is me. I'll tell you that. Another thing they found, JC and Alan, both of you, I'm going to tell you both this. In the news this past week, they've been getting signals out there from space. They feel that maybe they're alien-oriented.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Reminds me of the WOW signal back in 77.
Yeah. So, this, and it's been going on for a while. But again, you're talking about whoever's sending these signals, right? They're gone. You know what? They're gone. That's like going back to the 14th century or even back before that. You're talking about 1 million years ago. And that signal is just now getting here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They've lived in civilization, lived and died.
Oh, yeah. Well, Alan, are you still with us?
I'm still with us, unless they used a black hole or a wormhole to get us a signal from beyond out there. Maybe there are wormholes. Maybe that's how these ETs are coming here through loops in time and space. There was a paper by Eric Davis that talked about wormhole technology. He was one of the people who briefed the Senate Intelligence Committee on crash retrievals. You could read that article in the New York Times, July 20th, 2021. So there's technologies and things that, sound like science fiction, but it's happening. And we have to wake up to the fact that, like I said, reality is not what we've been conditioned and brainwashed and in a way dumbed down to think it is. It's much faster.
Well, could we be actually AI and not really human? Could we be a computer program running? Some people think that could be a very big possibility.
we could be anything we imagine ourselves to be. But I don't quite go along with that. I think we have a deeper essence that's forever. I don't know, not to get into any spiritual talks, but I think we are these eternal beings that take on different bodies, lifetime after lifetime, in order to evolve the soul and consciousness. So, and we learn in each lifetime. And when we become a master at something, we've owned it. You're a master at announcing radio. This has been your passion, and your soul comes to a place of satisfaction when you find your passion.
It does. And I don't think we're, a computer chip running on a program, because I know a couple weeks ago when I was hammering that nail and I missed and hit my thumb, I felt a lot of pain.
Right. There is a definite physical reality to our embodied incarnation, but there are people who could hit their thumb and they don't quite feel in the same way because they're a little more transcended. I'm not saying you're not, but there's people that have reached other levels of consciousness. Do you believe that?
I do believe that.
And so, yeah, they may, like I interviewed Byron Katie once, and she said she accidentally slammed her hand in her car door. And she said she felt it, but she couldn't make it hurt because she was, I wouldn't say detached, but she was in a state of consciousness where the body was just an objective thing for her.
I did that once when I was a kid, to be honest with you. With my parents' car, that they were leaving. I got out of the car, I slammed the car door, my hand was in it. My dad shoved the car in reverse and took me about 50 feet before he realized I was being dragged around with my hand. Very painful.
That's traumatic. But so what is the nature of reality? What is the nature of these bodies? What is the mind? I mean, who's this who's talking? Who's Gary? Who is that? It's not just your history and your name and your personality. There's something that's feeding that. Do you think, or do you not?
I think there is, because there's not another Alan, there's not another JC or another listener out there identical to them. We're all individual, we're all different, and we're all made up different.
Right. So is that an eternal force, or is that something? So that's the big question. That's the hard hard questions of science. Did consciousness evolve from matter? Or did matter create consciousness? So did consciousness descend into matter in these bodies? Or did biology evolve enough to create this thing called self-awareness, sentience?
I don't know.
No, go ahead.
I don't know, but I don't want to die to find out.
Well, that's sometimes how people find out. But you don't have to die to find out. All you have to do is meditate or have an out-of-body experience. And then, like Eben Alexander, who was a neuroscientist, when he went into a coma, he realized he had still perceived thoughts and a kind of interface with reality. So even though he was recorded as brain dead, he was having experiences that defied that technology. So I think, in essence, we are the beings beyond the body, but we have a body to live out experiences here and to enjoy ourselves in this earthly plane. And I think we've reached a kind of next phase, and that's why these ETs are here to help lift us up to the realities that we've ignored for a long time, that there's more to us and to nature and to biology and technologies, and we've boxed ourselves into a corner. So it's really about awakening. That's what I feel. That's just my theory. I mean, there's lots of people with lots of ideas, but I think they're here because, we've reached the end of the road as far as this level of reality. I mean, how many more wars can we have? How long can we live ignorant of other people's awful situations? There's still atrocities going on. We need to come together because we're all connected to each other. You right? Do you ever walk into a room and people have had an argument and immediately you can feel something in the air? Well, that's because we're all connected on this consciousness level. And I think if you keep extending that, we're connected to these ETs that seem to be coming in and out of our reality. Or is that too out there?
No, I really agree with what you're saying. Now, I want to go back. You said that you might possibly be implanted. Have you ever gone and had the thing x-rayed or MRI done or a PET scan done to see what was there?
Actually, have not. I mean, this whole thing, even though I'm so into it, I have to tell you the truth, I'm still a little freaked out by it because it's traumatic. Maybe it's not intentionally traumatic, but when you interface with beings that from another level of reality that we have not been conditioned to think really exists, there's no place to put it. It creates a cognitive dissonance. So part of my research and obsession is try to integrate these experiences. But I know Whitley Strieber's had it analyzed, his implant. I'm not sure if it was an implant for me. I think they may have just taken genetics to create a hybrid being. I mean, even when I say that, that sounds like science fiction, but it seems like a lot of people are meeting these genetic mixes of these little grays with humans. And part of the reason they are creating the hybrids is because the grays, if we want to call them that, have reached the end. This is just my theory and other people, the end of their evolutionary line because they bred emotion out of their system. They became pure intellect and they hit a dead end. You know, if you can't feel passion, if you can't feel anything, there's no sense of evolving. So they realized what they forgot or left out of their genetics or bred out was our capabilities of feeling, of emoting, of creating, of sensing. And so they're creating these hybrids to combine our genetics with their genetics to create another race. But I don't think they're going to inhabit this planet. I think there's lots of planets they'll go to. Some people say, oh, they're going to come in and take over. I don't think so.
No, maybe they're waiting for us to, because again, if they have the technology, all they have to do is shift our planet a little bit. And we would go into an ice age. And maybe they, we don't know. That's the whole thing. We don't know their makeup, what they are used to living, with and on, and their atmosphere and all this stuff compared to ours. We just really don't know. But my feeling is, honestly, I think there's ETs walking our streets, living down the block, and we don't know it.
They might not even know that they're ETs either. But what you said about shifting our planet a little bit to get to experience the ice age, I do think that the moon, I don't know, it's a little out there, is an artificial satellite that was placed in orbit to balance our tides, our oceans, our atmosphere. The moon doesn't just pull on the waters of the earth, it pulls on the atmosphere. So the moon was placed to create a big balance. So we are more protected than less protected, I think. There's beings invested in our future, maybe for our genetics, or maybe they realize that their consciousness is connected to our consciousness, and they're waiting for us to grow up. But sightings have increased, Gary, worldwide in every continent on the planet. So something's up. The game is up, and I think the government is scrambling to get an official narrative to tell us what's going on. And that's where we're at now.
Well, like I always say, and I always joke, I want to know if these beings are hostile. And they could be, and they could be some other ones that are lovable. We don't know. And we don't know which one might do whatever they want to do. Again, look what's going on in our world right now. How many different wars are going on right at this second? How many people are being slaughtered, killed, dumped into trenches right now? It is enough to turn your stomach. And just because, how many years has man walked this earth, and we're still doing it from Adam and Eve, and, from the very beginning, we're still killing each other. So how do we know that these ETs might have advanced and are really intelligent, but they still could be a warrior race? At least, I watch a lot of B movies, and that's what they are.
I know. I'm sure your favorite one was To Serve Man, right?
Yeah. How about the invasion of the body snatchers?
Right. But you know what? Wars are still happening, and it's unfortunate, but most people are pretty good people. They just want to live their simple life. They want to have enough food for their family and vacation. most people are pretty good. If you stop someone on the street, 9 out of 10 times they'll give you directions. So it's like that with alien races. I mean, I would
don't
say
know.
9 out of 10 are looking out for our welfare. There's some that are here just to take what they can. So I trust the fact that the universe is a friendly place. Look, we've been through awful times here. I don't think it gets any lower than World War II, where
How about World War III?
or World War III. But yeah, if we have World War III, World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. That's an
If
old
it's
saying.
anybody left. I'm going to tell you this, and I've said this for 70 years almost. Here's the point: you're walking down the sidewalk in a main intersection where hundreds of cars are going by an hour, and a guy is crossing the crosswalk. He gets hit by one of the cars. He's laying there bleeding out. Do you know how many people will stop and stare? And it's like they're getting their high watching somebody die. They're just sitting there and they're in awe. And
That's because, I hear what you're saying, but I think that's changing. I think, people were more disconnected from each other. I think the internet, this is just my idealistic possibility. We're more connected to each other. I think, yes, if someone was hit, then there'd be more people now picking them or putting down their iPhone. So we have to realize that we are connected. That's what these ETs, the good ones, are waiting for. So I think you have to decide for yourself, Gary. Is the universe a friendly place or is it a hostile place? I believe it's a friendly place. I think it's for us, pronoia, not paranoia. I mean, this is very idealistic, I know, but if you have that attitude, look what you've accomplished. Look, you've spent 50 years on the radio doing what you love, so you have something going for you, right?
well, that's about the only thing, but yeah, you nailed it.
Well, you've loved every minute of it. That's the feeling I get.
I enjoy it because two things. When I was a little kid, my mom said two things to me. One, you're going to be an actor, or two, you're going to be a priest, the way you talk so much.
Right. So now you've been an actor priest for 50 years.
Yeah, well, I'm preaching what's going on out there.
The choir. But no, I don't think the universe is as simple as good and evil. I think it's a lot more complex. I think these beings are really concerned about the evolution of our consciousness, waking up to the fact that we are more than our programming. I think this is the leap we're going through, a leap from where we're disconnected to each other. We want war, we want aggression, and to realizing the only way we're all going to survive is coming together and helping each other. And they found that in evolution, that the species that worked together were more abundant than those were in competition. Wolves hunt together. I know they're still hunting, but animals that are altruistic to each other, there's more of an increase of survival. So the old Darwinian idea about the survival of the fittest is being challenged by people like Bruce Lipton. No, it's cooperation that ensures survival. So if these ET races have survived long enough to create the technology that has brought them here from who knows where, then maybe they come from more of a cooperative understanding of each other than a competitive.
I still I got so many guests through the years saying that they will never allow this world to have a nuclear war, and they will stop it. If I want to believe that, you can believe it, but I don't think they would. I think they would let us do what we do on our planet. Otherwise, they would have stepped in. We wouldn't have had COVID. We wouldn't have had, all these diseases for the years. We wouldn't have these wars going on. We wouldn't have what happened with Hitler go on. We wouldn't have all this stuff going on. They have never stepped in and stopped us,
Well, if they did stop us at some point where there could have been a nuclear war, about the Maelstrom nuclear missile bases where the ICMs were turned off, the intercontinental missiles were turned off.
But if you listen to Congress on that and the CIA, they said that never happened.
Well, you can say it never happened, but I interviewed Robert Salas, who was there at the base in 1967. He sent a report there and said, this has happened. Look into it. They're very concerned with nuclear weapons. This is what the whole Rendlesham Forest landing was about in 1980. There were nuclear weapons there, and that was secret, but there was a craft that landed there. So there are people who've had interactions in greater degree than I have. I mean, I'm like kindergarten. There's people deep. Get Travis Walton on your program, where he was off planet for 5 days being hit by something off a UFO. Have you ever interviewed Travis?
I have had his crew members on the show, and his crew members actually contradicted what Travis Walton said.
Oh, really? What did they say?
JC, what did they say? You remember. Your memory's better than mine.
Well, the one theory was, well, I think they were having a feud there, but the one guy said that they kind of thought it was something with the government instead of ETs, mind control. The other one was kind of neutral, but yeah, they were.
Well, the other one said that with that UFO was a tower, watchtower.
Yeah, that was the third one that said that.
I mean, you could talk to someone about there, but I'll connect you to Travis. You want to interview Travis? He's said the same story since 1975. He's a fantastic person. He's been challenged and ridiculed and, just made fun of, but he's stuck by his story that he was taken aboard a ship after he was knocked out by that beam and missing for 5 days. And I believe him. And I don't believe people who weren't, they were there, they left him there, but he will stand by that story. What is this now? Nearly 50 years later. Same story, hasn't changed it. So I'll introduce you to him if you want.
Oh, yeah. I've been trying to get him on my show for years, and for some reason, he doesn't like me. I don't know why.
Well, you have to, he's tired of the ridicule. He was on some lie detector game show, and they said he was lying, and you should have seen the look on his face. I mean, Travis is a regular guy. There's no reason. He didn't want this thing to happen to him. He was thrown out into it by running towards the light and being blasted. Actually, he thinks the light actually killed him, and the ETs on board the ship revived him. And that's why he doesn't want to get hypnotized, because if he gets hypnotized back to the point where that light hit him, he'd think it'll actually kill him again. So he has some interesting stories, and probably one of the best known contactees we have.
Yeah, what is the strength? Because our time is running out. Al, what is the biggest interaction you had with a UFO that really convinced you that they were off world?
Well, after I had my contact, I was woken up in the middle of the night in a dream state by something that was tickling my leg. It's what it felt like. And then this little creature was placed in my hands. It may have been a hybrid. I don't know. It was weird. It was in an altered state. I can't prove this happened, but I never forgot that dream. It was a dream-like thing. I mean, dreams you forget and they come and go, but there was something very strange about this particular dream that has stuck with me and creeped me out a little bit, because what's going on? Who was this little being they put in my hand? So that, you can't deny someone's experience. You could tell me you've been to the moon, Gary. I'll have to believe you, because I don't know what your experience is. So we have to trust our experience and not look to thinking that we're always making things up. Maybe I did make that up. I don't know. But something has happened to hundreds of thousands of people around the world with encounters with ships, with beings, with lights, with orbs, affecting their bodies. I mean, some people get very sick from being around UFOs. Some people get healed. Preston Dennett talks about this whole healing phenomena. We have to be able to look at all the evidence without laughing at it and see what's really going on. And we have to press our congressional people that we've elected to work for us to lay this all on the table, and it's time for the lies to stop. They're lying because they don't know what, in my theory, they don't know what to make of this. They don't know how to explain this because they don't understand it. But let's acknowledge, okay, you don't understand it. Let's look at this together as a global population. What's going on here? What's at our doorstep? And what wants to wake us up to another level of reality? That's exciting for me. This is not a threat. You can make it a threat, but I think we're at the threshold of a brand new world, and we can embrace it with new possibilities, new technologies, new discoveries in biology, new understanding of our place in the universe. That's why the government is cracking. This is my theory. The inside the government, people like Lou Alexander, Chris Mellon, they are pushing for disclosure, and they've seen the secret videos. If you listen to Elizondo, you see it. I've seen 4K videos of beings on board a ship that were not human. He doesn't quite say it that way, but he sort of does say that. So we're at a turning point in human history. Isn't that exciting, Gary?
Well, as long as it doesn't go back like where the Mayas went or the Incas went or whoever built the Sphinx or the pyramids, and the world gets rebooted to go into another age, I don't know. At this point, I'm really confused. What I want is, honestly, I want but if Congress is lying to us and they can't even get together about passing a budget bill, you think they're going to tell us the truth about UFOs and ETs?
I know we have to demand the truth. All the liberation movements, women's liberation, black liberation, all of them have come from the people. We need to demand this. We need to maybe protest about it, march in the streets. That's what I'd like to organize. This is a grassroots, because the government, you're right, they're not going to come. We have to demand the truth. And there are people inside the UFO field that are stepping out, and mainstream news has to support this, because now they're realizing, with the acknowledgement of UAPs and the Nimitz incident in 2004 and the TikTok video, that they've been lied to by their own government. So if we get enough people like you on mainstream, maybe some of the answers or some of the big questions can be put to the public and say, look, we really don't know what's going on. We don't know how to explain this, but let's tell people that, instead of covering up and say, oh yeah, we got this under control, we have it handled. Well, they don't. And the more they say that, the more they may be forgiven for all the lies that they've told and the careers they've discredited, because people have said, I've had an experience. So this is the turning point in human history. And it's the most exciting, I say again, that we face collectively, where the world changed and suddenly we're not alone in the universe. Think of that headline in the New York Times when that comes out.
That would scare me. Hey, our time is up. You got a book. Why don't you share about your book and where they can find it, Alan?
Yeah, my book is called Making Contact, Preparing for the New Realities of Extraterrestrial Existence. And preparing is just hearing what experts in the field have found. So it's a collection of writing by the people I consider the best in the field. Nick Pope talks about why government cover-up happens. And then you go to Grant Cameron, who's a Canadian researcher, who says, if you've seen a UFO, you're part of the phenomena. There are no innocent bystanders. So I wonder how many people in your audience has actually seen something in the sky they couldn't explain or had a visitation. And then I talked to Linda Moulton Howe and John Mack, who's no longer with us. I got an unpublished essay. He was a psychiatrist. I'm sure you know about him, from Harvard, who talked to people having experiences. First, he thought these people were crazy. And then he said, something real is happening to them and they're not psychotic. And I'm going to believe their experience over a pathological label that someone could put on them. That he was really pivotal in the UFO movement in the 1990s, wrote a book called Abductions, where he goes into case histories. And he was actually on Oprah back then. So I get these pivotal people in the field to each express their own point of view. Whitley Strieber has a chapter. Linda Moulton Howe has a chapter. Mary Rodwell, who works with children who remember their lives on other planets. I mean, that's a little out there. But, each person has their own perspective, and where they line up is in agreement that something is here to evolve us forward. So the reader, you can buy it on Amazon, Making Contact, Alan Steinfeld, and you get different perspectives. So the reader can make their own ideas about what's really going on here, because these are people who put 50 or more years into their lives studying this And they're intelligent people. These are very smart people. I mean, Richard Dolan's not in my book, but he's an historian. And he said, oh, yeah, I saw a little thing about UFOs in one of these history books. I thought there was nothing to it. 20 years later, he's still investigating this thing. So,
yeah, Alan, we're out of time. Again, one more time before I let you go, the name of the book.
Making Contact, looking for it on Amazon. Look for my YouTube channel, New Realities, youtube.com/New Realities. You can find me there and email me at newrealities@earthlink.net. Thank you, Gary. This has been fun.
Okay, my friend, you take care. And you can find out more information about Alan by just going to our website, and you can actually go to his bio and click on, it'll take you right to his YouTube page. Well, JC, who's the guest we have, or the two guests we have tomorrow?
We have two fantastic guests on tomorrow. We have Glenn Steckling coming back, talking about ETs and what's going on with Mars and the moon with them. And then we have Russ Haslage on. He is, of course, the owner of the website that carries other shows and apps. So he's going to be good to talk to, too.
Okay. And any special guests coming up next week?
Well, we got some really good guests. Even Friday, we got Mark McNabb and Rob Freeman coming back on. They are UFO investigators and documentary filmmakers. Yes, next week we have Les Johnson coming on, and next Thursday we have Mark D'Antonio coming on, very well known investigator of pictures and films of UFOs, analyzes them. And then we have Paul Blake Smith coming on, talking about UFO crash of Cape Girardeau 1941, and James Clarkson, the UFO detective, will be on.
Yeah. And don't forget, too, the first week of June, I'm going to be gone on vacation. Yeah.
That's right. You are, aren't you?
Yes. I'm going to take my cardboard box and I know, excited about the vacation. I'm taking the first week off of June and the last week of August off, just to let everybody know. In September, a lot of changes to this show. I'm bringing on two new people. We have Michelle, who worked for WNBC back a few years ago. I have Eric is going to be on, who's going to be the director of the show to connect us with the go-between my show and radio stations. I just don't have the time anymore. You know, people are getting mad at me because I don't respond to their messages through Messenger or emails. I can't do it. I get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds a day. Seriously. And I randomly picked a few people every day and respond to it.
Yeah, you can only do so much, Gary.
Well, till tomorrow, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the show here tonight. Everybody has their own views, what's going on with ETs, UFOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call it. Are they friendly? Or are they the type that'll invite you to a barbecue and you're the victim? I still think it could be the invasion of the body snatchers. I'm going to watch that tonight. The invasion of the body snatchers. Great show. Everybody have a good one. We'll catch you on the other side of the campground tomorrow. And again, make sure you catch Sunday's show, The Hitman. And if you are into the scary side of ghost hunting and all that in the paranormal, you want to catch the Sunday show at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Everybody have a good one.